challenges you face when trying to integrate culinary spaces into the new developments you work with?
So for me, a lot of it is regulatory challenges. There's a lot of bullshit, frankly, red tape and things that shouldn't exist when you.
And I hear that a lot from restaurants as well here, that like they expect to open in June. I see them in September. They tell me it's going to be January, and this is happening a lot.
It's not okay. It's not okay. We should be pulling out all the stops for small businesses, because what ends up happening is that the 10,000-pound gorilla, major groups from New York and other places that have all the resources, that have the stamina, are the only ones that can really penetrate the system. And we want to we want to incentivize the small independent entrepreneur to really have a chance to succeed. So it's the permitting, it's the regulatory, and it's the costs. And I think food and beverage, you have to pay more impact fees, of course, for food and beverage, water and sewer. And really, I think that we should be reducing any barriers of entry to allow for particularly homegrown, local people to thrive and survive.
And is there anything being done to help that scenario?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we have a great relationship with both county mayor, city mayor, and they recognize the problem and they want to be part of the solution, but we're not there yet. And the affordability issue is really important, and it's really important to support these small businesses and give them the tools. Marketing, accounting, all the things so that they can be the artists. And I think that's a lot what ends up happening is that, having to become, the jack of all trades sucks out the creativity from these culinary artists, and they end up having to be doing a lot of things that they shouldn't be doing. So I think that's part of it. The rent is an issue, and then the regulatory part is an issue of just getting permits and the facility to do business. We should be, making it easier for people, not more difficult.
100%. And Nidal, we keep speaking about this idea of a culinary hub and Miami becoming a culinary hub. What to you makes a culinary hub? What defines a true culinary hub, and how does Miami embody this?
Yeah. I think there's different things, and I've been asking this to local chefs also. One is to find its own culinary identity. And when we talk about it, we need to define what's South Florida cuisine. What are the elements of South Florida cuisine? Does it exist? Or are we building it as we speak? No? Is it a mix of Cuban, Peruvian, Venezuelan, Haitian, no? So I think one of the most important things is to create that identity, which is not easy in cities that are so diverse, so young as well. So that's one thing. And the other thing is creating the perfect infrastructure for that scene to thrive. And I know Miami, you were mentioning also, rents are extremely high. Every restaurant that wants to open, one of the major challenges is to find not only, let alone staff, like educated, experienced staff. So that's another issue. So, but again, those things don't happen overnight. I think we are on the right track. But yeah, we'll summarize, I think, those two, like identifying what's our cuisine and having the right environment to thrive.
And just how much has Miami grown since you came?
Easy answer is a lot, no? I'm going to talk about it later, but definitely there's two things that have happened. One, there's a huge influx of foreign investment in the industry. Those major food groups from other cities that have injected a lot of capital. Definitely there's also a new generation of chefs that are mature enough to open their own concepts, and we've been seeing and enjoying all those concepts. I'm not going to name them. Some of them are actually pictured in the back of the room. And again, that's not casual. You mentioned Michelle Bernstein. Michael Schwartz was here yesterday. I don't know if he's here today. They also help nurture and form the new generation of chefs that are today opening their own restaurants. And not minor is the migration. We have also a lot of chefs from other cities in the US and from other countries, mainly from Latin America, who are finding in Miami that space where they can open their own restaurants.
And Tony, can you provide some like concrete examples of developments, urban developments, where culinary spaces have significantly helped those communities grow?
You talk about Michael Schwartz. I mean, Michael's Genuine in the Design District was there before anything was there. That was the reason you went to the Design District. And then he did his Harry's Pizzeria after that, and on and on and on and on. So without those places, without those culinary anchors, those places don't exist. They're just deserts, right? So culinary is the heart and soul of those neighborhoods. And like I said, News Cafe and Ocean Drive back in the day in the 90s was magic. I mean, it was just something that was incredibly special. Cafe Tabac south of 5th was like one of the most chic, cool cafes you could go to. And there's just so many examples. And Miami does have its own flavor. It does have its own style. And it needs to keep on leaning into that and developing that, because its magic is its diversity and its culture. And these anchors, like the Michael's Genuines or the Zach the Bakers, or here you have Boyade, not far from here. You have really all these innovative, interesting, kind of little hidden gems, so to speak, that are not so hidden, are really what makes me excited about being here. And I think we have to do our best to preserve those and help those to thrive. And I think there's room for everybody. There's room for the big food groups. There's room for the small independents. And I think we just you want to preserve that diversity, and you don't want to have a complete consolidation of the market, because then what ends up happening is it just becomes too commercial, and then it loses the vibe, it loses the magic. So.
And a question for both of you. How do you see Miami's landscape, the culinary landscape, evolving over the next 5-10 years? And what trends do you expect to drive that change?
Yeah, to connect it with what I mentioned earlier, we have been seeing local chefs consolidating their concepts. So one thing that we're going to see is, and we had an amazing example earlier today with Ronnie and Chintan, we're going to see these local groups thrive and grow. We have Boyade opening Wallace Rodeo next door. We have Matis opening the new version of Itamaya next door. So as these local talents start consolidating their businesses, I think we're going to see local hospitality groups grow, thrive, and not only open more concepts here, but also exporting. We will be probably, instead of being a place that receives concepts from outside, at some point we're going to start exporting concepts. Miami Slice just opened in Vegas. No, that's also an example.
Very nice. And the same question to you, Tony.
Yeah, I think it's undetermined how Miami will evolve. It really depends on all of those factors: affordability, the support that they get, the regulatory climate, also the consumer, you guys, what you support, who you go to, what you promote. I mean, social media and influencers play a role in kind of where the trends evolve. But certainly, places like Little Haiti and Wynwood and the urban core are certainly evolving. And there's new places, that are constantly, up and coming that people would never think of, that are neighborhoods where things can emerge. And so I think, there's this destination dining, which used to be all these neighborhoods, Wynwood and Little Haiti and even the Design District, that are now becoming more neighborhood, and casual. And so I think that people are they're risk takers in Miami. There's lots of entrepreneurs. I think it's one of the capital of small businesses in terms of individual entrepreneurs. And so I think there's an entrepreneurial spirit here that needs to be nurtured and needs to be encouraged and needs to be supported. And, for me, you can go to any major city around the world, Paris, London, and New York, you can still find, the local cafeteria, you can get the local, cafecito. And I think that's really important that Miami preserves that. We shouldn't have $13 lattes everywhere. That's just not the type of city that I want to live in. I want craft and artisanry that's worth paying for, but I just don't want it to be, a country club. That's definitely not what we're looking for.
And it leads me on to that word that gets thrown around a lot, but is an important word, which is gentrification. And how do we avoid that with this sustained growth that we've going? You're obviously passionate about that. You mentioned Paris and the 15-minute city. There's another thing in Paris which they do an awful lot, which is in big developments, X percentage goes towards social housing. What type of rules, regulations do we need to put in place to maintain the identity of Miami and not to gentrify?
Yeah, so I think from a political standpoint, policy standpoint, we need to reinvest in underserved communities. We need to invest in affordable and workforce housing. And yeah, I think there should be more money put into that and more incentives given to people who are willing to take risks and not just develop luxury condos. If all you're doing is developing luxury condos, then those are second, third, and fourth homes. Those aren't people who are here all the time, that are frequently visiting all of these, local, they're not your local patrons. And, it's great to have people coming in and out, and we welcome everybody. It's not about, just having only locals, but locals are the tastemakers. Locals are the ones that people follow where to go. They're the guides, they're the placemakers. And so I think it's really important to keep it local, invest locally, and invest in kind of indigenous Miami culture is really important. And so as part of that, when you're planning these neighborhoods, incentivize, small businesses, local businesses, give them the tools they need, help remove barriers. And that means supplying them with grants and subsidies, and artists as well, and creatives. And I think that's really important, to have artist housing and studio space and commissary kitchens that people can use and prototype their skills, and who's going to be the next, superstar chef out there. And we want to be incubating those people, and we want them to feel like they can have an opportunity to be in Miami and have their own place one day, and that it is a realistic vision. And so I think that it comes down to public-private partnership, awareness, vote with your wallet, go to places where you're supporting local and where people are sourcing their food, locally, and they have a conscious way about doing things. That's going to keep the money in the local communities. And I think that's really what's important, is that diversity, and it requires collaboration, and it requires different stakeholders to pitch in, but it requires also a mindful consumer, a more sophisticated, I think, culinary customer, to really think about, what am I doing? Where am I supporting? Who is the entrepreneur behind this? And really, how is this impacting, my city and my neighborhood?
Conscious consumption, really. Yeah. And bringing it back to this idea of the importance of culinary spaces, I know, Nidal, you, the entire Gluttonomy team, were very much involved in the creation of Juliet and Henry's. I'm sure many people in the audience have been there. If you don't know, this is the huge food market in downtown Miami. How do you approach a project of that scale? How do you curate a list of vendors for a space like that?
Yeah, that was is that working? Yeah. That was a beautiful project from the beginning. When we started working on that, the first thing that we did is we took our time, because we were talking about it. A project of this size doesn't get done in a year. We knew it was going to be 3-4 years, and even then, I think we took an extra year. The things that we did was, first, we wanted to listen to the neighborhood, to the residents, to the people who work there. So we created a campaign called I Want Downtown Miami to Be. And we literally, I don't know if some of you remember, we wrapped the building with those stickers. I mean, people would take a sticker, write it, and put it in the walls, and it was literally, I want Miami to be, and people would write many things. To our surprise, I was hoping to a lot of jokes and things I wouldn't be able to share here. People wrote very, very interesting things. So we took all that information and we created what would be the pillars of Julian Henry's. It would be like the new food scene, always happening, clean and secure. So that gave us a voice from the community of what they wanted that to be. Because we could come and say, we're going to put a nice restaurant, a barbecue place. And no, we wanted first to listen what they wanted. After knowing that, we did a curatorship of the building with a mix of concepts that, yeah, we brought like super well-known local chefs and chefs from outside, but we also gave space for up-and-coming chefs who probably were doing pop-ups and didn't have a place of their own. Gaston was talking earlier the stages of the maturity of those businesses. So some businesses were in the stage where they had already proved their concept and they needed a full hall to keep growing. No? So we brought also those concepts. And in terms of food, we also, for those of you who don't know, Gluttonomy, we're a marketing agency focused only on food. So we go always to see the trends, what are the foods that people are asking for, or what are the future trends. So we said, okay, we need a ramen, we need Korean, vegan bakeries, and so on. So we put together a mix that would cater to the community of that neighborhood.
Nice, and it's a beautiful concept as well, really. And I'm going to come to the audience in a moment for some questions. So it's your final chance of the day to ask questions. So don't let me down now.
By the way, that was like 4 years ago. The campaign was Witness the New Downtown.
I want to throw that back at both of you as my final question to you two on stage. What do you want Miami to be? Let's stay with you, Nidal. So if you were to answer your own question there, right in on the side of the building, what do you want?
Yeah, I would love Miami to be a culinary hub, but that is authentic and genuine. And you mentioned also something. I don't want it to be a Vegas. I don't want it to be a Dubai. I want it to be what it can be. Like it's in the U.S., but also it has a strong Latin accent. So it needs to reflect that. So I see Miami as a city with local concepts, driven by a very diverse community of chefs and restaurant owners. A city that offers opportunities for newcomers to invest, that it's not only a city where the major food groups of the world can come and open new places. And from a business perspective for the industry, even though I don't own restaurants, I would like to be less seasonal. No, we always hear how good sometimes the winter is, how bad the summer is, and that's hard for businesses. So I would love the city to be less seasonal, and that goes connected to having people actually living in the city and not just coming for the winter.
And same question to you. What would you like Miami to be, Tony?
I like Miami to be the capital of South America with a sprinkle of Europe and everything else that's in it. I mean, I want it to be, a snow cone.
Ambitious.
It's why I came here. It's like I want to feel like I need my passport when I leave Miami. I want it to feel like I'm not in the U.S. And that has a lot to do with the food you eat, the experiences you have. And I don't want it to lose that charm. I don't want it to lose that magic that some people probably don't like, but that's the reason that I'm here, is because it's unique. And I don't want Miami to die in a copy. It's an original place, and that's what drew me. I grew up 3 hours away from here. I vouched to run away and go as far away from Florida as possible. I came back only 180 miles away from where I grew up. And it's because Miami is special. It's unique. It's got this cultural vortex, that's this mix of all these different places. When shit's hitting the fan anywhere else, people come to Miami in Latin America. That's what they say. So we want to be a cool refugee camp for the creatives of the world in the culinary scene and in all creative classes as well. And you want to support. What I don't like seeing, I'm sorry, is all of these private members clubs and all of this exclusivity. Just say no to that. That's going to kill the city. Like, we got to keep it open, got to keep it local, you got to keep it cool. And it's not about, it's not about closing down doors. It's like when I was in Wynwood, the magic of Wynwood is that, with the street artists, and the collaboration with the landlords, we brought art into public places and we made it accessible because art is very elitist, and we don't want Miami to be elitist. Elitist is not going to be good for Miami. You can have all the money in the world, but you don't want to be exclusive or elitist. You want to be high quality and you want to be inclusive. That's the direction that we want to go. And so that's the Miami that I want to see.
And
It's up to you all.
Time for one question from the crowd, if we have it.
What are your thoughts about the impact that Moshimana has had on the city, especially Wynwood, now downtown, how the city is evolving or devolving because of his investments?
I'm not trying to avoid the question, but I would love Tony, I mean, from a developer point of view, to answer that. I mean, what I know, I've been involved in Julian Harris, which is a huge project in downtown Miami. I know many of his investments are there. I don't know how much involved the city is, but it's been a real nightmare venturing into this new area with permits and everything. And some of the investors of that project, I think they're around here. And the other thing that I think is Julian Henry is a great building, but one building won't make a difference. So it has to be an orchestrated effort from Moshe as the main developer and owner, landlord of downtown with all the other landlords. But I don't know much about the other things.
I'm going to pass.
That's when you know you asked a good question.